Hi, Richard.
Hi, friend. How are you today?
I'm very good, thank you.
Great.
Wonderful day for the discussion today because I think we are going to provide a lot of value in terms of what's going on in the UK with EPR, which is Extended Producer Responsibility.
Yeah.
And is some of these things are actually is a perfect storm, if you may, when regulations and the companies it seems that are not aligned. And there's a big challenges to companies to understand what's going on, how to address it.
hmm
It seems to have another firefight to go through, and mostly we know that actually is probably a technological challenge, as we discussed last week, rather than anything else.
Yeah.
And so I think that actually is a very very timely conversation today, because there are several requirements. For some companies, they have to do a reporting every 6 months. Other companies want to do yearly. The
hmm
next one is coming in October. Then the next one is in April. So it's tight and very demanding, and it's another one that companies need to address. So I think it's a very
Well,
timely, it's a good opportunity to understand what is a technological challenge and how can be solved.
I think it'd be good to just put some definition around
Oh
it
yeah,
first
sure. By
off,
context,
right?
what we're talking about.
EPR is a very, very clear subset of a subset of governance, risk, and compliance.
Right.
Okay, we have GRC fully integrated into our operations management platform,
Mhm.
which means that as a subset, ESG, environmental, social governance,
Right.
managing that agenda as a subset in GRC is also included in our system. And I would say EPR, extended producer responsibility, fits into that.
Yeah.
In fact, it's even called out in the ESRS in the EU,
Yeah.
circular economy and resource usage and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So it's a subject that is very near and dear to our hearts, right?
Yeah.
In the UK, that government mandate, the purpose for it is fairly simple. It's to shift the cost of packaging waste from councils who are struggling with dealing with it
Yeah.
to companies who place that packaging on the market,
Right.
right? Giving the councils much needed financial relief for what they're dealing with. And I believe, um, you know, in principle, it's a great idea. It's been operating effectively in other markets around the UK
Yeah.
for, quite a number of years. Basically, it applies factors, packaging,
Yeah.
to packaging format, to the material, to the weight, the recyclability, its destination, etc. Right? It's intended to incentivize people designing their packaging for recycling, right?
Yeah.
To make it recyclable and to also fund waste collection in the councils. Yeah. Um, the real world impact is that it is definitely a new reporting burden. It is also a cost exposure to businesses, and it's a risk that needs to be
Right.
managed carefully by SMEs and MMEs. It's not just an environmental initiative, right? It is a regulatory and operational obligation.
Right. Right.
It's a mandate.
Yeah.
However, it's also a new cottage industry for consulting and
Mm.
system silos and spreadsheets,
Right.
right? That's the current state of it right now.
And
And yeah,
yeah.
that's
So
EPR in a nutshell is basically producer pays.
right. So, but I think here it's important to rescue that portion that actually last week we spoke about the challenges, the technological challenges that happen with accounting software.
Mm,
Sorry, first the regulation in terms to harmonize all the accounting reporting standards, and then that how that translated into big problems for companies, how to make that in their own standardization processes, and that was a technology issue because actually there were no many software prepared to work with that. And today
yeah.
we have, beside all the asset management and the governance risk compliance, the company working, now we have another layer of isolation of data or reporting that actually is not embedded into the softwares that they usually have.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a couple of problems
Yeah,
that EPR present to businesses. First
yeah,
off, you know, if you take a look at the current situation in the United Kingdom, there is a implementation challenge of
right,
the mandate, right? It's basically, a tax that's being applied to the past,
right,
but without any tools, without any modulation, or with very little lead time.
right, right.
That's the way the public is kind of seeing it. And a lot of SMEs and MMEs are going to be struggling with it.
Yeah,
So, for instance, like fees due in October 2025
right,
are based on 2024 packaging.
right.
Any changes you make now aren't going to count for that 2025 billing.
Yeah,
Also, though, the rates for those fees were announced a little bit late for companies to be able to do pricing adjustments
right.
or contract adjustments in 2024.
Mm,
Um, Also, a very, very important element of EPR should be modulation, right? Rewarding recyclability. A
right.
lot of SMEs and MMEs have put a lot of time, effort, and expense into ensuring that their products packaging is recyclable.
Yeah.
And then modulation is delayed until 2026. So
Jeez.
that factor of the calculation that would credit that great effort,
Yeah,
those conscientious companies have been making
yeah,
is delayed until 2026,
right.
but they have to pay in 2025 for 2024's activity. So ethical producers who we are a fan of receive no credit for early actions or reuse systems.
Right, right.
Additionally, deposit recovery schemes, that's another method of exemption
Yeah.
that's part of the future plans. They're not applicable yet in the UK, and that's delayed until 2027.
Mm, right,
Yeah, that's another issue. So, and also there's some, inconsistency and misunderstandings and confusion around exemptions for export, around classification of B2B
right,
versus B2C, that kind of stuff. And there isn't a heck of a lot of very helpful structured onboarding or support for
right.
SMEs and MMEs. So the metaphor is basically it's like being having a government tax be applied to your revenues, but you're not allowed any deductions,
Right.
right? And we're not going to tell you what the tax is until it's too late for planning and forecasting.
Which
You
is
know,
infuriating.
yeah, it's got to be infuriating.
Yeah,
There's nothing we can do as a software company
yeah,
except extend our sympathy
yeah.
to those companies, especially ethical producers who
Right.
put a lot of time and effort into, environmental and ethical packaging,
Yeah,
and not receiving
sustainability,
credit for it.
recyclability. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
that's at the same time, I can understand the implementation challenges.
yeah,
The data collection required to apply that recyclability factor,
yeah,
is quite big. But considering the fact that it's already been done other places, one would have thought that the correct process and data,
yeah,
would have been available. But I can't put myself into the shoes of the government organizations that
right.
are I'm sure working very hard to implement this plan. And, then there's the councils who are already suffering with waste disposal
Yeah,
and they need funding as quickly as is possible.
yeah,
So I can understand, I guess, why the government is proceeding with the 2025 levies,
yeah,
regardless of the challenges. Um, there's whole bodies of businesses that are getting
yeah,
together to protest the timing,
yeah,
at least, especially, groups of ethical producers and
yeah.
stuff like that. But
And given
that's the
that,
implementation challenge, right?
right. So that because then we have the where it's coming from. I think that you gave a very thorough explanation of why. And we have, yeah, it's easy to say, oh, they are punishing the producers again, or the manufacturers or the brands again. But there is a reason behind that, which is the challenges in terms of budget or how waste was treated 10, 20, 15 years ago and how it's treated today. So the whole changed, but the budget didn't change. We have to look into that too. But let's say now that we are in the situation that we are today, exactly where we are, how Trinity, as a software technology company, what is the problem and how Trinity address it?
Well, that one I can be a lot more passionate about
Right.
because in addition to the implementation challenge and the
Yeah.
fairness factors and all that other kind of stuff, there is definitely what I would qualify as a technology challenge
Right. Right.
around EPR, right?
Yeah.
So it requires detailed product level data and calculations.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a complex classification, packaging formats, material, the weight, the recyclability factors,
Yeah.
et cetera, the destination, that kind of thing. And there's no standard tooling out there being provided by government, of course,
Right.
for SMEs and MMEs. So spreadsheets are currently dominating that space. In fact,
Yeah.
that's what's been provided to businesses is here's our government spreadsheet for calculating this. And the RAM scoring, right? RAM is the recyclability assessment methodology
Right.
that's being used. It's currently in version 1.1. They're working very hard to make it more and more fair. So,
Yeah.
but it's not the simplest thing to apply. And that scoring is not readily available from most suppliers who you would be purchasing things from if you're like an
Right.
importer and being held responsible for that packaging, right? There's a bit of unclear guidance on household versus non-household estimations,
Right.
right? Basically, you've got all of these factors swimming around.
Yeah.
The ability to forecast costs or simulate future changes is, well, it's onerous at best because you basically got spreadsheets, right?
Right.
The reporting as it's being managed currently is reactive. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's not proactive. It's being treated like a reporting project, a sunk cost, a zero ROI
Right.
additional fee on the business. It's not just the fees for, that the EPR are applying, but there's the cost of figuring out how much you have to pay. And a lot of
Right.
people, are concerned about penalties if they get it wrong and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And we've seen this also in the EU, haven't we, Fred? With CSRD and ESRS reporting, a lot of confusion and concern. And this technical challenge is not encompassed by most systems that SMEs and MMEs would already be using.
Right.
So it would be like, okay, it'd be like using an accounting system that doesn't actually calculate your taxes or balance your GST,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you would be doing all of that offline,
Yeah.
right? And doing transactions online in your accounting system, but offline you have to calculate the tax by yourself.
Right.
And that would be a silly accounting system to own. But that's the current approach. And it's basically like an entire new cottage industry has sprung up around this.
Yeah.
It's the same approach as what we see being taken in most places related to ESG
Yes. Yeah.
and ESRS reporting. It's being dealt with as a project, not proactively. It's being seen as a man-hour problem. And this is a subject that we've discussed before,
Yeah.
right? I am passionate about, look, apply a technology solution first. What's left over is your man-hour problem,
Right.
right? And right now, there's new siloed little software portals popping up. There's tons of spreadsheets out there, right? And there's whole consulting industry that's growing rapidly around this. And without the right technology tools, those consulting hours, we've always seen in various industries,
Yeah.
consulting hours go up when the sophistication of the tools is low.
Right.
You have to pay a consultant more to deal with spreadsheets than doing, a little bit of
Yeah.
reviewing your data in an existing system, that kind of stuff. So that technical challenge is definitely there. It's just a subset of typical ESG reporting challenges, which is a subset of not having integrated governance, risk, and compliance
Right.
associated with your operations management systems.
Yeah. So it's and how so how if we say okay we understand the context where the situation today, so what will be the Trinity solution? And say okay, here we are okay, talking about all these
Yeah.
things, people are fairly complaining and frustrated with everything, and then we come to this call today and say okay, but we have a solution, by the way. So it's not just about adding more pain and how it's called salt in the wound. Actually, we want to add value to our enterprise and say this is a solution that we can offer to the company.
Yeah. Well, packaging is an integrated operational feature to our resource management.
Wow. So it
Um,
means actually there is no more to do there. It's actually okay.
no,
Sorry,
it's ready to go. It's
it's
ready to
ready to
go. It
go.
tracks packaging at the SKU level. It tracks products. It has flags for household versus non-household. It captures supplier recyclability declarations. It automates jurisdiction-based exemptions and fee simulation, depending on whether you're in the UK or you're in France or you're in
Yeah.
Germany. It has all of the selections that you'll find in those government spreadsheets.
Right.
It's a perfect tool for a consultant if you think you need to hire one,
Yeah.
to express their expertise, to
Right.
capture what it is that they know. So, in most cases, classifying the materials, is going to be quite easy. It's selection from some drop-down boxes.
Yeah.
Check a flag, select it from the drop-down
Right.
box, right? And within Trinity, because it manages operational execution, it treats this as a transactional factor, just
Right.
like greenhouse gas emission factors can
Yeah.
be added to various, resource items,
Yeah.
inventory and stock and stuff like that. It's just another mathematical thing that is generating an audit trail, that's generating reporting, that's allowing you to do forecasting and to take a look at scenarios and that kind of stuff. It's
Right.
fully integrated. It's built right in. It's not a bolt-on. It's
Yeah.
not a module that we need to integrate. It's embedded straight into product definitions, into your purchasing process, into your order execution workflows. Depending on what kind of orders those are. It could be a sales order, it could be a service order, it could be a disposal order, it could be
Right.
anything, right? That zero spreadsheets and no third-party portals. And I can say this based on the research when I was designing the feature.
Yeah.
Trinity replaces anywhere from 80 to 90% of the consulting effort required for EPR compliance,
Right.
delivered as a structured, multi-jurisdictional solution embedded directly into your operations management tool.
Right.
The reports are formatted, ahead of time. The master data is already there when we show up at your business. And if the customer wants to make packaging part of the scope of our 90-day program, then they're going to see the results long before we invoice them.
Right. Right. So, and I think that this is one of the crucial things there is as the EPR is evolving uh, still. What I
Mm-hmm.
think one of the biggest challenges you mentioned the master data. So this is a big concern because if you have a tailored or customized spreadsheet, and then
Mm.
you have to update that every second week or every month or every 6 months, then which is the version that actually have holds the truth, while
Yeah.
in Trinity you don't have there's another a less headache to down the road.
Yeah, look, we can't solve the implementation governmental problems,
Yeah, yeah,
and we can't we can't reduce the levies,
yeah,
but the technology problem that's presented by
right,
EPR, that we can solve. That we've already solved. We're
Yeah.
ready to go. So at the very least, SMEs and MMEs won't have to deal with that.
Right.
And I'm very proud of what we put together. Look, over the past 30 years, in my experience, material classification is not much different from packaging classification.
Right.
And material classification has always been mission critical in the EAM space,
Yeah.
especially with bigger companies that have, hundreds of thousands of stock items, that kind of stuff that need
Yeah.
detailed breakdowns of material
Right.
classifications.
Right.
So being able to classify packaging is actually easier than some material classification methods.
Right.
And the guidance is out there. All of the information is out there, right? And being provided to the public. It's just having a system that's treating it as master data, not consulting information.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean, right?
Yeah.
That's the data that they're watching, that they're looking at, and
Yeah.
you're paying for them to know that data and to select from it. We put it out front for you.
Yeah.
And of course you may need some expertise. If you're not getting supplier disclosures, you may need, somebody who's a packaging expert to help you classify something, right?
Right. Right.
Something along those lines. Or you have a question here and there. I'm
Yeah.
not saying 100% of consulting effort. They've got an absolute definite role in
Yeah.
EPR. However, it's very similar. I'll use this as a metaphor, right? Accounting, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to go to an accountant, a very qualified, skilled accounting expert who knows everything about the tax codes in the UK,
Yeah.
and you're just going to bring them a shoebox full of receipts and invoices that you
Yeah.
charged for, and maybe a bank statement, and tell them to sort it, do my accounting for me. Well, you've given them no tool, and they're going to be happy to do so. They'll probably prefer not to, but the fact that you don't have the right kind of technology is
Right.
not going to stop them from doing the work
Yeah.
and billing you for that time. Now, being able to register transactions is not the best spend of that man hour for an accounting expert,
Yeah.
but they will do it. They will do it. It depends on what you bring them. If you bring them an accounting system, which is typically their first question, especially if you're outsourcing your accounting, is what are you using, right? And all your transactions are in there, and the system is calculating the tax, and you have a question or two, some outliers, well then, they can help you quickly and easily, and they would probably favor you as a customer because you already have, a correct system
Yeah.
that doesn't let you break, accounting rules,
Yeah.
something that's
Um,
already generating tax reports that they can balance. And if you have some
yeah.
questions, they add their expertise, that kind of stuff.
Um,
That's the situation that you want with people who are packaging consultants and,
right.
EPR specialists.
And
Yeah.
then exactly, because actually that instead of it is billable, which is nice, but actually at the same time, probably all their advisory expertise and how to move the needle at the end is that where is their value, not just mechanical processes of classifying things and doing spreadsheets.
Yeah, that's low-hanging fruit, and
Yeah.
nobody wants to have to do that manually, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And, everybody's seen this coming for enough time to have started delivering correct solutions.
Yeah.
Whether we're the first, ready for the UK market to deliver, EPR compliant packaging solution. I'm not sure. I've been too focused on making sure that it's well designed
Right.
and ready to go and works well, and making sure the master data is correct and that kind of stuff, keeping
Yeah.
up with the latest updates of RAM. The latest one, version 1.1. I had to change some master data for recyclability classifications and stuff
Hmm.
like that.
Yeah.
But we build a great deal of expertise into the product itself,
Right.
right? And so that portion is repeatable. It's not special. It's publicly available. It
Yeah.
should be built, just like calculating GST on a transaction. That should be built into your accounting.
Right.
Well, packaging impacts and calculations should be built into your operations management, right? And so we built that tool. There's going to be plenty of occasions where you're going to want a specialist, but I'm confident that we can address 90% of the issues during a regular system implementation for our customers. And I'm looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Okay, perfect. So we have the context, we have what are the biggest challenges and a solution. So I'll think that we can wrap up today because I think it's a fantastic news because actually that doesn't require nothing special in terms of it doesn't require another spreadsheet, another silo database or information trying to integrate into the forecasting, the projections, or cash flow management of companies. That is all embedded in the same platform, which is Trinity.
That's correct. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, Richard, thank you very much again. Actually, I think this is very useful, and we're going to share with a lot of people now to see what they think about it.
Great, friend. Thanks for
Okay,
your time
fantastic.
today.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.